So I'm in Sicily with Sony Europe. I'm here for the launch of the brand new 24mm f1.4 G Master lens. Now I've not had the lens for long, but I've had it enough to tell you guys a little bit more about it and the image quality and just my first impressions of it. So a 24mm f1.4 lens, who exactly is this useful for? Well, the most obvious answer is landscape photographers. But with that 1.4 aperture, you're going to be able to blow out the background just a little bit. Obviously at 24, you know, shots are quite wide. Depth of field isn't as shallow as it's going to be if you're shooting with sort of an 85mm 1.4, something like that. But I've been taking some shots with it, and it's nice to be able to take a portrait and just soften that background. To really make the most of the lens though, in regards to the f1.4 aperture, you have to get nice and close, and the minimum focus distance on the lens is 24 centimeters. So when you're getting nice and close with that 24 centimeters, we've got 11 rounded aperture blades, so you do get some nice circular bokeh, you know, that we've come to expect from the Sony G Master range. So the lens itself, it's nice, solid, quite heavy metal construction here. We have a fly-by-wire manual focus ring, so that's purely electronic. We've got no hard stops for the minimum focus or for infinity. We also have a focus button on the side there, AF manual focus switch on and off, and then of course we actually have an aperture ring on the side here. Now that's clickless as well, so you flick that, you can flick it from being clickable to being completely smooth. So again, really useful if you're shooting video with this lens to be able to change aperture smoothly. Now obviously we've got a metal mount on the back here, but you won't be able to pick this up on camera, but there is a very, very thin sliver of rubber. We've got an O-ring seal just around the back of the mount here, so that when you do attach it to the camera, everything is nice, firm and tight, and that rubber O-ring on the back should just prevent any dust and moisture getting in, you know, between the mount of the lens and the mount on the camera. Now, as you'd imagine, we've got a lot going on inside here. There's 13 lens elements in 10 groups, which gives it a reasonable weight, but it feels nice on this A7R3. It's nicely balanced and it's a reasonably good size. So one of the things Sony were telling us a lot about were the XA elements in here, the extra spherical elements. One thing they talked about was sagittal flare. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's flare that's generally from a kind of pinpoint within the images. You notice it towards the edges of the frame especially, and it's important for astrophotographers. Obviously, you want all of your stars to look nice and round, and this lens should give you that. You shouldn't get any of that kind of flaring, that kind of longitudinal flaring where everything looks a bit stretched out and you don't get a point, you get a flare coming off of it. Not been able to try that out because the sky last night was a little bit overcast, couldn't see any stars, but when I do a full review, it's definitely something that, you know, Sony are touting, so I'm going to try it out. So in terms of autofocusing, wasn't really able to try out any continuous autofocusing with this lens, but Sony say it's got a new DDSSM actuator in here, which is going to be 3 times the thrust, I guess, acceleration of the previous models. Now, in terms of single point AF, I had absolutely no trouble at all focusing the lens. It very quickly jumped from point to point as you kind of focused around the scene. And I also used it to take some IAF shots. So photographing a model, the lens was able to track the focusing on the model's eye, no problems doing that. And you should now be looking at a little screen capture of that happening. So let's talk about image quality, curvilinear distortion. Not had a nice brick wall to photograph, but I did photograph some tiles and some grids on the floor, and from what I can see, there is very little curvilinear distortion. Again, not a very scientific test whatsoever, but this bodes well for when I can do a full review of the lens. So chromatic aberration, I have noticed just a sliver of magenta green fringing on a couple of high contrast edges, obviously towards the corner of the frame. Now this is with the in-camera corrections kept turned off, so it's actually what the lens is doing. Switch that on and it disappears. You zoom into 100%, that's only really when you notice it, and I'd say it's only going to be around a pixel wide. It really isn't anything to worry about, but again, when I can do a full review, we can talk more about that, and we can actually do some proper test images on some black and white charts and see exactly what it's doing. So overall image quality, like I said, at f1.4, it's really sharp, crisp lens in the center, and obviously as you stop down, things just crisp up even more. Really nice. Loads of detail you can pull out from the center of the frame, and I'm talking really fine detail, grains of sand and things like that. You can really pick out those details. By the time you get down to f8, f11, everything is just really crisp. In terms of edge-to-edge resolution, you can go top, bottom, left, right, and there's virtually no drop-off in the detail that you can pick out in that resolution. So from what I've seen so far, I'm pretty impressed with the 24mm f1.4 lens. I'm really looking forward to trying it out in the next few months, giving it a full test and really getting down to the details of what the lens can and can't do. But it looks so far like Sony are onto another great fixed focal length lens. So price and availability, I'll put the exact numbers up on the screen, but off the top of my head, it was around 1,600 euros for that lens. And again, I will confirm the price in pounds for that. So that's it, that's my quick overview of the Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master lens. Going to be doing a full review on this in the not too distant future. If you want to watch that video, make sure you don't miss out. So hit the subscribe button to keep up to date with all the latest photo gear news and reviews.